The days that I don't want to do it are actually the days that I have to do it, because on that particular day that I don't want to do it, my competition quits on that day. And what I mean is that I have to be mentally stronger than everybody else. So my day that I don't want to do it means that somebody else, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 other people in my industry, are going to say, I don't want to do it either. That's the day that I win, because they stay home and I go to work and I build a level of resiliency that I can do it. And I always do that. Many days in a week I didn't want to go to work. Many days I didn't want to prospect. Many days I didn't want to make 50 contacts. But it doesn't matter how I feel. The only thing that mattered was that my goals were so important that I had to overcome my personal feelings.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to a brand new episode of Vulcan7 Coaches and Mentors, where we bring you some of the best in the industry to share with you their tips and strategies so that you can implement in your business immediately. Now, we just started a brand new year. We're here 2025, and I have an amazing guest that is going to be breaking down exactly how you can make this your best year yet. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and bring on Bernie Gallerani. Welcome, Bernie.
Wow, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm excited to do this for you guys.
Yes. So for everyone that's watching that maybe is not too familiar with you, just go ahead and give us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, I've been in business, the real estate business. I'm going into my 20th year of being a real estate agent. I'm now a team owner. So I spend most of my time kind of coaching and training my own team members today, but spent a better half of about 15 or 16 years in high level prospecting, selling houses, calling expireds, calling buy owners, knocking on doors, and doing all the things that most realtors find intimidating. I probably did, I guess, in the beginning, found it intimidating, but I've just learned through the process of getting in front of people, helps you a lot. And so for the last, let's just call it 15 years earlier, or 15 years when I started, I spent most of my time doing all of that. And it really made a fantastic life for myself. I moved out to Nashville, Tennessee from Las Vegas in 2004. So in August of 2004, and then in January of 2005, I started selling real estate. What was really interesting, though, is, and I say this for the listeners, I moved out here and I didn't know anybody. So the saying is, you sell all your friends and your family, houses in the beginning. Well, I didn't have any friends and or family to sell houses to. So the challenge that I had was I didn't know anybody. And so what I did was I just got on the phone and started calling expireds. And and that's kind of the history of it. So we've been in business. I've been a real estate agent, just completed my 19th year. I'm going into my 20th year now. And I've been a team owner now for about 9 years. And I love being a team owner, and then out of production personally about 4 or 5 years.
That's awesome. And you have so much experience just yourself with your team. But I want to take it back to, before Bernie got into real estate. What was that like? What were you doing before, and what got you into the real estate business?
Yeah, so I was in franchise sales when I lived in Las Vegas, and I was in franchise sales there. So I was used to being on the phone, talking with folks that would go online and inquire about a potential opportunity for franchise ownership. And so I'd walk them through all the business process of loans and what they could expect within the franchise industry. So I did that for quite a few years and probably got a lot of experience on the phone from that kind of a business. It's no different though. It's rejection, right? Anytime you're in sales, rejection is what you get most of, then you get acceptance. And so getting into this world of calling people through, expireds and buy owners and those kinds of things probably was just a natural progression. I wanted to change a career. So when I moved to Nashville, I got a real estate license in Las Vegas right before I left. So I hadn't really sold any homes there. I just moved my license over here once I received it there in Nevada, and then just started selling here. So my background's always been sales. I've always been in that industry of selling something to somebody. But real estate was much more lucrative opportunity to make money. So once I saw that as an opportunity and I got introduced into the coaching program that I'm in, and I knew once I started talking to people and using the skills that I had in the past and the skills that I was learning through the coaching organization, that this is where I would build my wealth.
And is through that coaching, is that how you learned what type of leads to go after? I know you mentioned the for sale by owners expires. How did you feel going after those type of leads, and how were you preparing yourself?
Yeah. So I signed up immediately for the Mike Ferry coaching organization, the MFO. Matter of fact, it's really interesting is I started looking for coaches in November and December of '04. Didn't start selling until December. So the good news is I didn't have any bad experiences or bad habits that a lot of realtors have when they work with a regular brokerage firm. You know, I signed up with Mike in December, Mike Ferry organization, MFO, and didn't start selling real estate till January. So from my very first day in real estate, I had a professional real estate coach saying, do this and do that. So I didn't have a lot of those habits that a lot of agents get comfortable doing what it is that they're normally doing in selling real estate. My coach was gung ho from day one, says you do this. And I really didn't know whether it was right or wrong, right? I was paying a coach to make me successful. So if he said to jump around with a purple suit on, I was going to jump around with a purple suit on. And so it was really great. So I didn't, but what's really interesting is I got on the phones. They said, prospect, 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 call, call, call. And so I did. And, it's kind of a world I came from. So I was somewhat comfortable with it. And I didn't even close my first house for 5 months. So it took me 5 months of calling every day, 7 days a week, 4, 5, 6 hours a day till I sold my very first house. And so they were like, well, how do you feel about selling 5 months to sell it? Well, I closed 40 in my first year. So you look at this going, well, it took you 5 months, and then the next 7 months, you closed 39 more. Yes, because what I started realizing was not only did I close that one within 5 months, which is I started in January, closed my first one in May, so we'll call it 4.5 months, but I then had 8 pendings on the board. So it wasn't, I may have closed it, but I had all these other pendings. So I remember literally looking at my board. This is in May of '05. And counting my little commission dollars that I had at that time. My average sales price was really small in those days, but I had $35,000 pending coming to me. And I went, oh my gosh, I'm not even good at this yet. And I just made this amount of money. I had never earned that kind of money before. And so that fueled the fire. And when I started to realize I could make $35,000 every single month if I just keep my mind right. And that's how it all started. And so I just stayed doing what my coach said to do day one. January, February, March, April, May, closed my first house, then hit it really hard in June, July, August, September. And I really just became obsessed with the ability to get myself into a financial position that would serve my family long term. And I've never stopped thinking that way ever since.
So the first month that you made that 35,000 or that big commission check, was there something in mind that you wanted to buy where you're like, when I make this, I can go and do this? Or what did that look like for you?
Well, I mean, I never really made any real money, and I don't mean I'm probably going to upset some people who are listening to this, but I had made 120,000 a year, 115,000 a year, and that's good money. Don't get me wrong, for a lot of people, but for the people that I hung out with within the coaching organization, they were making that every month, and so I guess I realized I had an opportunity, but I was 38 when I started, and so I had a home I lived in that I had financed. I had a mortgage on my property. I had a car payment like anybody else. My wife had a car payment like anybody else. But I also had 2 little girls at that time that were 8 and 10. And I didn't have any sort of money saved for an education. I didn't have any retirement portfolio whatsoever within my life. So I knew immediately that was my way out of my situation. And so I worked, and Mike Ferry used to always tell us this when we were coaching: work with urgency every single day. Work with urgency. Don't take 20 years in something you can do in 10 years. Why take 30 years when you can do it in 10 or 15? And like even with prospecting, he'd go, why take all day to get 30 contacts when you can do it before noon? And so I really adopted the work with urgency mentality. And I learned that through saying, if I can continue to grow and I can continue to be like the people I was hanging out with, so the big heavy producers in real estate making $100,000 a month. If I could be like them, I don't have to do this until I'm 70. I can be retired really early. And so every day I went to work, I worked with urgency. Every day I worked like it was my last day. Every day I left it out all on the table. I very rarely ever cut it short. I never was late to work. I always worked 12 hours a day. My first year, I did it 7 days a week for 12 straight months. I never took a day off, and it really served me well. And so I think my mentality today is the same as it was 19 years ago, and that is there's a lot of things I want to get accomplished. And if I ever choose to retire, which I'm not sure it'll happen anytime soon because I love what I'm doing, I'm just going to make the best out of every day that I have. And I
And
love doing it. I love doing it. That's the what's fun
yeah,
when you make money is it's fun. Like when you
yeah.
start making money, it's a lot of fun. People are like, oh well, all you do is think about work. No, no, no. I have a great life. I have a
Mhm.
really great life. I mean, an amazing, blessed life. But I paid a price that I would not. I would do the same thing over again. I wouldn't. I'd probably make a few changes, but for the most part, 95% of everything I would keep the same because it has been worth it 100%.
You mentioned so many things that have stood out to me. Even, when you got started and with the coaching and you did exactly what they told you to do. I feel that nowadays there's so many distractions that agents have and they dabble here for a week and do something over there for 2 weeks and they're like, oh, it doesn't work. And even for you, took almost 5 months to sell your first home, but then you had a snowball. And we see agents all the time giving up. Oh, 5 months I did it. It doesn't work. Calling doesn't work. Prospecting doesn't work. So for you that you build a team, you have a team, you're a team owner. I mean, how do you find agents that are 100% committed with the same work ethic that you had to make sure that they succeed as well?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I'm an unusual guy in that I'm very driven and very committed to the work that I do, which most team owners and people that have succeeded at anything at a high level have that kind of personality. So it is hard to find in the real estate industry. And though we've had a lot of really great people inside of our company, um, you kind of work. I call it your financial thermostat. In that I learned this from an agent friend of mine up in Paducah, and she talked about this financial thermostat. I think she got from Tony Robbins. And you work to your level of income that you need, right? So if you're an agent, you're making $50,000, and you come and start selling real estate, and you make 60,000. You work to that level, right? Or if you need 100,000, you work to that level. And so it's a very unique person that can look through the financial side of it and just want to grow as a human being. And that really becomes your motivator. That replaces your income is your ability to want to grow as a human being. Um, that is a very hard thing to find in people. And so to answer your question, um, I've learned as a team owner, which is different than as an individual. As an individual, I lived in my own world. I had a great life. I loved selling. I made a lot of money. I provided a great life for my family. Most people don't want that. Or I'll rephrase it. Most people aren't willing to go after and get that. Everybody, I think, loves the idea of it. Right? Mike Ferry always says this: "There's fantasy land and there's reality. We live in fantasy land, but we have reality. And reality is we don't have anything in our life that we didn't work for. Meaning, we have exactly what we worked for, and everything we don't have that we don't want it bad enough, or we would have it. And what are we willing to give up to have it? And if you don't have what you think you want, is you're not willing to sacrifice whatever it is to have it. And that's okay too. Nobody is telling anybody they should become a millionaire tomorrow or a billionaire tomorrow. But for those people that want to grow as a human being, money is irrelevant to us because you get to a point in life where you only can spend so much money in your life. Like there's only so much money you need in order to live your life. What do you do then? How do you keep moving forward? And that's where it comes, just adapting into the idea that I'm just going to grow as a human. I'm going to take this as far as I can. Whether I have X amount of millions or 20 times that X amount of millions, you're probably not going to spend. I'm not going to spend it all anyway. So why not just go have fun and build a great business and impact people and impact them to the level you can impact them, meaning take them to where they are to where you can take them. But you can't take everybody to the top of the mountain because most people aren't willing to give up
Yeah.
what it takes to climb to the top of the mountain.
So with the start of the new year, I'm sure that there's a lot of agents that are watching this and they're like, Bernie, I'm ready to go to the top of the mountain with you. What do I have to do? So can you kind of break down for someone that's like, this is going to be my year. Bernie, tell me, what is the game plan?
So I just had a coaching opportunity with one of my agents today, and so I'll share what I talked to them about, and that is Mike Ferry through our coaching always said to this that what's a bigger number, the people you know or the people you don't know? And so the bigger number of the people is the people you don't know. And so the people you don't know are not calling you. So if they're not calling you, then we have to call them, correct? And so how I look at this is putting together a plan, being disciplined at a level that says, how do I connect with people that I don't know? So I'll tell you what I did. And it was pretty simple process, right? And I would recommend anybody do this today. If someone says, well, it's been Bernie, it's been 19 years, what would you do different? Nothing. I would do it the same way. Number one, I would get every expired phone number and email address through Vulcan as you possibly can, because I've used Vulcan since Vulcan started. I mean, it's probably been 15, 16 years since Vulcan launched, and I might be wrong on a year, but since Vulcan launched, I've been a member of Vulcan. And so most of all my money was made through calling through the numbers in which Vulcan provided. And I would call as many expireds and as many buy owners as you possibly can, and learning scripts and skills and dialogues and conversational styles, and practice your scripts and practice your dialogues and practice your objection handling skills. And I would call for hours and not stop. I love what Mike Ferry says. Call, because you have nothing else better to do. Just call people and talk to them and practice your skill. So what I would do is my work schedule, and I'll just tell you what my work schedule was because I'm going to answer your question this way. I started dialing on the phones at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I didn't stop until noon. So I put 4 hours in. I would typically get about 30 to 35 contacts during that time. I would then go to return all my phone calls at 12 to 1. I would then go knock on doors from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock. If I didn't have a listing appointment, I would go back. If I had a listing appointment, I'd go on that listing appointment from 3 to 7 o'clock at night. If I didn't have a listing appointment, I would go back in and I would prospect from 3 o'clock to 7 o'clock and do another 4 hours. So if you look at this and go, wait a minute, you'd practice from 8 to noon, yes. Then you return phone calls, yes. Then you'd go knock on the doors, yes. And then if you didn't have a listing appointment, you'd go back on the phones, yes. Well, that's 8 hours of prospecting. Yes. And so if somebody's saying, well, isn't that a little excessive? For some people, it might not be, but for the goals that I had, it wasn't, because I wanted to retire very quickly. And so I knew that the harder I work now, I worked with urgency, I could build the skill. Here's something cool, right? The average agent sells 4 homes a year. I sold 40 my first year. So my coach said to me, you know what's really great? I said, well, what's that? He says, if you do the math on your if you do the math on the 40 to the 4, you just got 10 years of real estate experience in 12 months. I'm like, okay, that's very interesting. He goes, every year at 40, you get 10 more years than everybody else. So in 3 years, you have a whole real estate agent's career in 36 months. I'm like, wow, that is so powerful. Wow. He goes, now go sell 50 homes, go sell 75. And he says, you will have multiple lifetimes of a realtor every year if you sell 100 homes a year. The most I ever sold was 147 personal properties myself, and they were all listings. So I thought, well, this is pretty amazing. So I wanted to get as much experience as I could. And I looked at it, and I always said this, for every 4 homes that I sell, I get 1 year of real estate experience compared to everybody else. And I was out to do that. The second thing was my coach said, if the average agent sells 4 homes per year, and I loved this one, this is going to make some of your listeners mad, but if I had 4 homes per year, every time I sold 4 homes, I put a realtor out of business. Hallelujah, because I wanted less of them as competition. So every 4 years, every 4 deals, I'd celebrate. There's one more bit the dust. And here's why. Is because they won't do anything different than they normally do to sell 4 homes. They won't call a dialing system like your guys'. They won't pay the money for coaching. They don't want to educate themselves. They all want to make a whole bunch of money, but they're not willing to do one thing different than they do. They're not on a schedule. They don't show up on time. They make excuses for everything they have. And then they sit there at the end of the day and go, well, I have to get out of the business because the market's really bad. No, the market's great. In 2005, when I got in the business, I think everybody knows the 2008 real estate market. Mm-hmm. In 2008, I sold more homes than I did in 2007. In 2009, I sold more than I did in 2008. 2010, I sold more than I did in 2009. I sold more homes. I was selling 100 homes a year while everybody else saying the real estate market is bad. No, the real estate is not bad. You're just uneducated on how to sell houses at a high level. Get into coaching and get away
Mhm.
from your bad habits, and you will sell a lot of houses every single year. This is the reason why I can't find a lot of people like me, because I have
I
a
get
certain
it.
mentality that says this:
Mhm.
you can have anything you want. It doesn't matter what it is. You have to get out of your own way.
Mhm. Absolutely. I mean, I feel like we're the same. I was trained and taught very similar to you, where it's almost like military style. I never questioned it. I just said, "Oh, you said I got to pick up the phone and call expires. Okay, I'm scared, but I'm going to do it." And then I became very
Yeah,
good at it. And same with for sale by owners. Oh, we got a door
yeah,
knock. Okay, let's go door knock every single day for an entire year. And then
yeah,
people ask us like, "How do you do it?" And it's like, I just do it. Do I want to do it? No. Do I feel like it? No. But it has made me a better person. My communication skills are probably much better than yours because I actually went out and did the thing.
yeah. Well, yeah. And that, you know what? I love what you just said, because it's like when you do the work and the activity and you fail, like, because I think what people really need to hear is that we failed so much before we ever had any success. And even to continue to keep growing through the level of success, you have to just keep failing. You know, I have this saying, and I said it to my daughter years. My daughter joined our company years ago. She was in college and she was selling houses in the summer months. And I had her on the phones, right? She was 19 years old and I had her on the phones calling. And she'd come into my office and she'd be in tears. And she'd say, "This is so hard." And I'd say, "Honey, let me tell you, this isn't any harder for you than it is for any other person who's successful." I said, "You have to understand that you have to go through hard. You have to go through frustration. You have to go through pain. You have to go through anger. You have to go through it. And it's not going to be any easier for you than it is for anybody else who has tried to succeed at a high level. You just have to embrace it and keep moving forward." Now, today, she's graduated from college and she's a coach in our organization. So now she coaches agents, which now she says the same thing as, of course, that I had said to her. Um, but gosh, I would say to anybody, like, it's so worth it. Like, I want everybody to look at their life and just go, I can have the greatest life that I choose to have if I just step away from my fear of rejection.
Mhm.
Nobody here likes being rejected. I mean, I don't like being rejected,
Yeah.
right? I was being interviewed once, and somebody asked me this question, and they said, "What do you do on the days you don't want to get up and go to work? What do you do?" Because there's a lot of people listening to this right now that they don't want to go to work tomorrow and they don't want to make those calls and they don't want to have to get in this uncomfortable thing, right? And so my answer to that was this: the days that I don't want to do it are actually the days that I have to do it, because on that particular day that I don't want to do it, my competition quits on that day. And what I mean is that I have to be mentally stronger than everybody else. So my day that I don't want to do it means that somebody else, two or three or four or five other people in my industry, are going to say, "I don't want to do it either." That's the day that I win, because they stay home and I go to work and I build a level of resiliency that I can do it. And I always do that many days in a week. I didn't want to go to work. Many days I didn't want to prospect. Many days I didn't want to make 50 contacts. But it doesn't matter how I feel. The only thing that mattered was that my goals were so important that I had to overcome my personal feelings.
Mhm. Absolutely. That's how it's been for me as well. I know that early on when I got started making phone calls, my very first for sale by owner phone call that I ever made, I didn't want to make it, but I made it and I recorded myself and I posted it on YouTube. And I'm like, look, I'm just
Oh,
gonna
that's
do it all.
painful.
Yes, it's out there. It has like hundreds of thousands of views, but I'm like, you know what? I just want to show agents how bad Loida was, and you can just see the transformation year over year. And it just goes to show you, like, okay, she sucks, but now she's good, and we all start from the bottom.
Loida, it's funny you say that. So my coach, my very first coach, he had me record my conversation, and like my prospecting, and then that was back in the days. In case people are laughing, we had those cassette tapes, so we had to put them on cassette tapes. And so, anyways, I sent him the recordings, and it was about a week's worth of prospecting on this tape, and I sent it to him. And I don't know, about 2 weeks later, he calls me. He goes, "Hey man, I got your tape." I'm like, "Yeah," and he goes, "Dude, you just need to practice, man. That was not good." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Really?" I thought I was good, right? He goes, "No, no." He goes, "First of all," he says, "you're not repeating and approving." And I'm
Mhm.
like, "No, I am." He goes, "No, you're really not." And I'm like, "Okay, maybe I'm not." And he says, "And you're talking too fast." I'm like, "Yeah, I got a problem with that." He goes, "No, you got a problem with that, but you got to correct that problem." I'm like, "Okay, well, what do I do here?" So he then kind of gives me some advice there. And he says, "Listen, you got the energy and you got the enthusiasm. You just lack the skill." And he says, "That's why we're working together." He goes, "So I want you to work on these 2 or 3 things." And I am it was embarrassing to get the call. I was a little upset, to be honest with you, Loida, that I had this conversation because I'm like, I'm a little embarrassed, right? But I remember that phone call that he made to me that day changed my entire life and how I looked at myself. And he said, "Don't worry about it." He said, "You are going to be a rock star because you have the energy, enthusiasm, and excitement." He says, "You just need to work on the skill." And that's what I would say to anybody here. You're already a rock star because you showed up in the morning. Oops, sorry, guys. You showed up in the morning. B, you got on the phones. C, you made your calls. And regardless of the outcome of those calls, you improved in your skill. And if you just keep doing that and keep doing that and keep doing that and keep doing that, you're going to eventually get someone that'll say yes. And that's going to make you feel good. And then you just keep doing it. And then pretty soon the yes is going to come faster. Then you just keep doing it. And pretty soon you kind of connect the dots backwards and you go, wait a minute, man, I've just been doing this for 12 straight months and I just sold 20 houses.
Mhm.
Congratulations. I mean, that just put you in the top, 5% of realtors in the country, and you just started, right? And that's kind of how this thing snowballs. So I think it's just getting up, fighting yourself. Um, I think personal emotions are overrated, like how it makes me feel, and um, am I being judged? And yeah, I think that you just have to get past all of that to get to your goal.
Absolutely. I think I've heard it before. Like some people do this because they need to pay off their mortgage. Is like, does your mortgage care if you want to make a phone call or not? No, it still needs to get paid. So get back on the phone and prospect.
Hey,
So
I'll tell you a quick story. So I was in the business for, I don't know, like 5 years maybe or something. And I went to Italy. I took my family to Italy. And I'm making a bunch of money now, so I can pretty much go do what I want to do, right? And so I go to Italy for 2 weeks. It's really great. Come back. My coach calls me. It's like a Thursday. I got back on, like, we'll call it the weekend. And so she says to me, she goes, "How was your trip?" I said, "It was really great." She goes, "You're back to work already. How'd you getting back to work?" And I said, "Well, I'm working into it." And she says, "What do you mean you're working into it?" And I said, I've been on vacation for 2 weeks. She goes, "Well, you got a mortgage payment, don't you, right?" And I said, "Yeah." She goes, "You have a car payment?" And I said, "Yeah." She goes, "You got 2 little kids at home?" I'm like, "Yeah." She goes, "What do you mean you're working into it? Get your ass to work." And I'm like, well, that's really sums it up. It's we're like getting ready to get started, to get ready. Like we're going to start tomorrow, but we're not going to quite start tomorrow. We're kind of feeling it all out. It's like, just get up and go to work and put all the rest of it aside. And that's the response. The more responsibilities you have as a human being, the higher level of determination you'll take this to a whole different level.
Mhm. Absolutely. Now, this has been a great conversation, Bernie. For everyone that's watching that maybe wants to connect with you, learn more, maybe send you some referrals, just let us know where can they find you.
Yeah, I'm really easy to find. My last name is not easy, but you can go to BernieGallerani.com. That's my website, or you can email me at BernieGallerani.com. You can Google me, Bernie Gallerani. I'm all over the internet, so it's pretty easy to find. You can find me on YouTube. Probably the same stuff everyone else does. But yeah, we'd love to be able to help any families that are moving here or any referrals that we have going out. We'd love to be able to toss that somebody's direction.
And one last question, because I know that you have had a lot of success with Vulcan 7. If someone is watching this and maybe they're on the fence, they're shopping around, trying others and seeing which one is best, what would you say to them?
Well, I think that when I started, Vulcan 7 wasn't around at that particular time, and so I've used a multiple of different dialing companies. And even while I've had Vulcan, some other systems that I had some data evolved with other companies. What I try to tell everybody is this, and of course I don't get paid to say this, but I've been a Vulcan 7 since its almost inception of the company. There is not any better data that I've ever seen. Cell phone numbers, email addresses. I think as a caller, you want to find, something I said to Rin once about his numbers, and I'll just leave this as an interesting story, is I said, well, am I going to get the right number? Because that was always the thing I used to think. I want the right number, Ren. Give me the right number, right? And he'd go, well, I'm going to, in my numbers, there's somewhere's going to be the right number, but you're going to have to call some other people because we're going to give you a lot of numbers, right? And I didn't really understand what that meant until I started understanding what that meant. And that is, sometimes if I don't have the right number, but I have a number and it's a family member, I can get the right number. I have sold so many homes where I've called it and it's been the wrong number, and yet I'm talking to them and I end up selling their house or selling them another house. And so what I love most about Vulcan 7 is not just getting the right number, but getting the multiple of family members. Because if you can't meet one, they can give you another number that's a direct number. So yeah, I have really never ventured away from Vulcan 7 as being. We have it in our entire company. All of our agents use Vulcan 7 today. Everybody's on this dialer, and it has just been an amazing experience for our company. And we won't use anybody else. I mean, I'm I love what you guys do, and I think that as far as your company goes and your management and your leaders of your team, they've always accommodated anything that I've needed, and so I'm a lifer.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you too, Bernie, and we're glad to hear all of these success stories. And anytime that you have any from any of your agents, we would love to hear them as well.
Well, listen, I'm going to tell you, I got a whole line of them. If you want to do any, they'll all sing praises. So feel free to let me know if you need any more of these, because they
Awesome.
all use it. So
Mhm.
it's a game changer for our company.
Awesome. Well, Bernie, thank you so much once again for doing this episode. For those of you that are watching, you might want to rewind and watch this 2 or 3 times, take down some notes, and hopefully you're motivated and you got to go out there and be like Bernie. You just got to do it. Stick
I
to it
either
and do it.
motivated them or scared the heck out of them. I'm not quite sure.
All right, Bernie. Thank you so much. And for
thank,
everyone else, we'll see you on the next one. Bye.
thank you.